According to Shreve and Levy, the authors of Cross-Cultural Psychology, culture is a set of attitudes, behaviors, and symbols shared by a large group of people and usually communicate from one generation to the next. In many cases, culture plays a great role in shaping people's perception. Perception is the process that organizes various sensations into meaningful patterns. Today, we are going to investigate how different cultures impact people's perception of beauty. Perception of beauty is used to identify the feeling of pleasure evoked by stimuli that are perceived as nice, attractive, or rewarding. In this video, we will study the perceptions of beauty in two countries, China and Burma. We will start by generally talking about the appearance of beautiful women in China and Burma, and then we focus on the Chinese tradition of bound feet and the Burman tradition of wearing micro brass coils around their neck. We would analyze the reasons why these traditions were perceived as elegant symbols from the aspects of history, social norms, government, and activities and experiences. China is a country with an ancient civilization, and the modern Chinese standards of beauty often mimic those from thousands of years ago. Take eyebrow as an example. In ancient China, women's eyebrows are very pointed and eye-catching. This typical eyebrow is called the dot eyebrow, and it was especially popular in Tang Dynasty. But this feature is no longer popular in modern China. Lips were considered the sexiest part of Oriental women. From the Han Dynasty onwards, the Asians developed an intense interest in using rouge, which was something like lipstick, to ornament their lips into different shapes. And cherry-like lips were popular in ancient China. And today, girls with tiny lips are usually the cover girls of Chinese fashion magazines. Today, we focus on the foot binding in Chinese history, which was performed by Chinese women for nearly 1,000 years. This detrimental practice produced tiny feet women through a long and painful process. Once in Chinese history, bound feet was once an important beauty standard that symbolized wealth, social status, and eligibility for marriage. Those who were too poor or needed their natural feet to work were not able to have their feet bound and were usually of low status in society. Modern people may find it hard to understand, but the reasons why tiny feet were perceived beautiful went deeper than fashion and reflected the role of women in Chinese society and Confucian moral values for women of domesticity, motherhood, and handwork. First, this tradition has a long history. The start of this practice can be traced back to 700 AD, and there are several versions about the origin of this tradition. Here we mention one credible version. Folklore says the practice started when a royal concubine had her feet bound because her prince loved her little feet and her ability to dance and walk so gracefully that she appeared to be skimming over the top of golden lilies, and others copied this desirable look. By the 12th century, foot binding was widespread among the upper classes, particularly the ethnic Hans, and it spread to other ethnic groups as well. Although the first Qing emperor banned foot binding in 1644, it was so deeply rooted in Chinese culture that the ban was cancelled. In the 19th century, the lower classes began to imitate their wealthier neighbors. Therefore, the spread of foot binding started from royal family, and as time progressed, the tradition became more commonplace among upper class and also lower class people. This phenomenon revealed the dominating role of royal government and officialdom in shaping social norms within a feudal context. Despite of the damage to the feet, ignorant folk followed the aesthetic standard of the upper classes, regarding the bound feet as an essential part of female beauty. The foot binding was officially banned in the Nationalist Revolution 1911, and the practice declined greatly, except for small groups living in the countryside. Another aspect to analyze this tradition is the social norms. This tradition was also the product of patriarchal society with the ideology that man is superior to women. Domesticity and motherhood were crucial moral requirements that Chinese women must obey. Once women's feet were folded and wrapped into a tiny shape, women's ability of doing labor works and social interactions were greatly restricted, and they even couldn't walk without assistance. This outcome helped shape the notion of strong men and weak women in a logical way. Motherhood was another ideal role for Chinese women, and a mother's goal for a daughter was a good marriage. It was necessary for a woman to have bound feet in order to marry well and achieve a good and moral life. Mothers bound their daughters' feet beginning between about 5 and 7 years of age. All toes except the big toe were folded under the foot and pulled back toward the arc, held in place by a long strip of cloth, resulting in a reshaped or deformed foot that had a narrower sole. The top of the foot became rounded and steeply angled. In terms of activities and experiences, tiny feet became sexually related in brothels, and hosts of obscene scholars explored feet as knowledge and divided feet into numerous types. Hence, the bound feet became the sexual tool that men could play with at that time. Foot binding was also associated with another important role of Chinese women, domestic ability of handwork. This ability was reflected in making shoes with elaborately embroidered decorative patterns, not only on the sides but also on the soles. Colors and styles tell us much about the women who made and wore the shoes with pride. Women of the Kenyang tribe, located on the border of Thailand and Burma, practice another tradition of wearing brass coils around their necks. This is a sign of beauty and status, and this particular form of body modification has likely been a Kenyan tradition for over 1,000 years. The rings are in fact a long brass wound spiral. The spiral is wound around the neck manually by womenfolk. Brass is a tough metal, and the process that can take several hours depending on length. A full set of neck rings weighs about 10 kilos. The full set of neck rings is made from 3 separate coils: the main neck coil and the wider coil near the shoulders, with a small coil wrapped around it at 90 degrees. Girls first start to wear rings when they are around 5 years old. Over the years, the coil is replaced by a longer one, and more turns are added. The weight of the brass pushes the collarbone down and compresses the rib cage. The coil, once on, is seldom removed, as the coiling and uncoiling is a lengthy procedure. The rings rubbing against the skin can cause discomfort and abrasions over a period of time. The muscles covered by the coil become weakened. The area of the neck and collarbone often becomes bruised and discolored. Additionally, the collar feels like an integral part of the body after 10 or more years of continuous wear. The reasons for this tradition tend to involve one or more of the following purposes. First, the wearing of a large amount of rings was a method to stop valuables being stolen by melting them down and wearing them. Second, the rings identify the women so that they will not be taken by other tribes. Third, the rings are a status symbol for women as a descendant of the mother dragon according to Kenyan legend. Fourth, the rings are worn for beauty. as the various tribes compete for attention in a kind of beauty contest. It has been theorized that the coils originate from the desire to look more attractive. However, it is impossible to know what the true story is since there is no written history of Kenyan culture. Kenyan women acknowledge these ideas and often say that their purpose of wearing the rings is cultural identity associated with beauty. In 21st century, the government of Myanmar began discouraging neck rings as it struggled to appear more modern to the developed world. Consequently, many women in Myanmar began breaking the tradition, though a few older women and some of the younger girls in remote villages continue to wear rings. The primary reasons for wearing them now are for beauty and to preserve their culture, as well as to help generate income and make it a living. We can conclude that the different aspects of culture can lead to exclusively different perceptions of beauty. These traditions do have profound implications in modern Burma and China. The tradition of brass coils around neck still exists in Burma, though it is fading away with time going by. In contrast, the old custom of bound feet was abolished officially since 9/11. In modern China, Chinese women have equal social status as men, and they know how to take good care of their feet for themselves. It's common to see them having feet and nail care. The picture shows the beautiful feet with nail oil. Here are the references for this video, and you may refer to these sources to learn further about the perception of beauty across cultures. Thanks for watching.